Welcome to the Big Life Podcast, where dreams aren't just imagined, they're built brick by brick, belief by belief. Hosted by Neal Oates Jr. and Robin Lewis, this show is your invitation to discover your amazing capabilities, invest in your growth, and unleash your potential in ways you've only dreamed of. Join Neal and Robin as they dive deep into stories, insights, and tools designed to inspire you to show up big, live intentionally, and give yourself away for the betterment of those around you. Get ready to rise to what you're truly worthy of. The Big Life starts now.
Welcome to the Big Life Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Neal Oates Jr. here with none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Robin Lewis. How are you today, sir?
Hey, doing great, man. Don't about no man, myth, or legend. None of that applies. Well, man, but I think it's the legend, brother. Come on.
So there is no myth. It's all legend. Robin, I am going to bring something to your attention that you are unaware of.
Okay.
And it's significant just because it's a number for us. It's not a round number, but this is our 93rd episode of the Big Life Podcast.
Whoa, we're getting to the century, brother.
Hey, we're almost there.
Where did the time go, man? We're having too much fun with this.
There it is. Time flies when you're having fun. But here's why I want to bring up, or why I wanted to bring up 93 episodes. That's 93 weeks of consistency, sir.
Come on.
Man. And we would be remiss if we did not pause to say thank you to the audience. Thank you for the viewers and the listeners of the Big Life Podcast, whatever platform you tune in on. It's 93 weeks of someone listening to two guys have conversation about living this big life, whether it's leadership, life, any of these things. And we are honored for that. And I know that you had no idea that we were on episode 93.
No,
Robin.
sir. You know that what that means is that we're just 10 weeks away from 2 years, man, doing this.
Yes, sir.
My goodness, that's amazing.
And so
that is amazing.
The other reason why I wanted to bring this up is because of what we're talking about on this episode, and that is the courage to be misunderstood. Over 93 weeks, Robin, we've been misunderstood on this podcast. We have misunderstood each other leading up. We've been misunderstood in our daily walks in the past 93 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. And so we're just going to ask you, do you have the courage to be misunderstood? And so we're going to break that down today. Robin, as you hear the courage to be misunderstood, what's coming to your mind? What's running through your head, sir?
The first thing, to be honest with you, is that I was going to ask you that question. Neal, what do you mean by that, being misunderstood? But yeah, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that we're all unique individuals and we have something that we are bringing to this world. We are creating, we are doing, right? We are building. And a lot of times as we are doing that, people are not going to get it, right?
Right.
And so it might take a little while for people to understand. So I'm thinking of, as an entrepreneur, I'm thinking of the creative person. I'm thinking of the visionary. I'm thinking about the person who's trying to make a difference. That's what comes to my mind, first of all, sir, if I can just be frank.
I thank you for that. The thing that comes to my mind after recording our previous episode and listening to that one, I think about those hidden costs, right? So we were talking about being the hero in our episode last week. If you haven't listened to episode 92, go back and check that one out. The leadership chapter, being the hero. But in that episode, we talked about the hidden cost of being the hero. Well, I also think there's a hidden cost of growth. And many times that hidden cost is going to be that not everyone is going to understand who we're becoming. Not everyone is going to want to see us grow or to improve. And what I know is, and if you're listening to this, you will resonate with this. You have been misunderstood by people, misunderstanding your decisions. They've questioned your motives. They have looked at your goals and said, well, why would he or she do this? You've set boundaries that have been rejected. And I think all of that is important. And here's why I say the courage to be misunderstood. Because if we aren't careful, we can fall in line and become a sheep in the flock. And we will go along with the masses. And we would never live the big life that Robin and I believe that God created us to live. And here's why I say that. Living the big life requires courage. Not stupidity, not ignorance, but courage to act from conviction, even when there is no validation from the outside. And so some of the things that we're going to be talking about is how do you live your life, or how much of your life is seeking external validation from others. And so we're going to jump into this conversation. Robin, are you ready to have a bit of a conversation with me, sir?
Sir, I am. I love that word conviction that you use, for example. I think that is so, like, I can tell you there are many a times where I led from a place of, well, how do you think it should be done? Like, I'm talking about leading a company. Like, what do you think should be important to us? Right? How do you think the culture should look here? And that is so far from conviction. That's so far from clarity about who you are and what you stand for and where you're headed. And I love that word of conviction. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this, sir. Let's jump in.
Well, here's where we're going to start. We're going to start by stating the obvious in my life and in my world, and that is that I am an energetic fellow. Like, I just wake up ready to go. I don't know if
Do you wake up like that, sir?
Robin. Cat Williams has this video excerpt, a clip where he says, from the moment his foot hits the floor, you ain't got to chase him. You ain't got to worry about where he's going. He just zoom, zoom, zoom. So that's me. And the reason I bring that up is there's nothing more exhausting to an energetic fellow like myself, than having to constantly explain myself. Robin.
I had a feeling you were going there.
Robin, if you ask me once, that's one time too many. Right? But here's what happens. I have found that there is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to explain myself to everyone and getting them to understand me. Here's what I know about those of you who are listening to the Big Life Podcast. We're visionaries. We are drivers, strivers. We are doers. So, Robin, here's where I want to just talk about the exhaustion that comes from explaining yourself to everyone. We might explain why we changed, why we made the decisions. We might explain why we said no. We might explain why we set the boundaries. And at some point, we have to come to the understanding that not everyone is going to understand why we made the decisions that we made. So I'm going to throw this first question to you because I'm looking for some insight to help a guy like me. Why is it that you think we sometimes need people to agree with us before we trust our own judgment? Because you mentioned you love the word conviction, but there were times when you weren't leading from a place of conviction. It was more like consensus. Let me get people who have no idea what the decision, what even is at stake here, get some of their input. So why do we sometimes need people to agree with us before we trust our own judgment, Robin?
Wow.
And I'm sorry for putting you on the spot early in the,
it's such
in
a
the
good
episode.
No, not at all. That's not where I'm coming from with this is that it's a good question. And I think, I think it kind of gets right down to it, right? For me, and I can speak for myself, and I think a lot of this is true for others as I work with people and so on, is knowing who you are, first of all. Right? Like, I think getting a clarity about who you are. Neal, I think a lot of times we do things based upon what others expect us to do. And we do that so much that we don't realize, we don't even know who we are. I think that's what happened. That's what happened in my case, Neal. I didn't really have clarity about who I am and what I really bring and how I see the world and like what is important to me, what are my values and what are my strengths or what is my makeup, like what are my gifts, what are my strengths, what are my talents, what is my temperament, and what do I bring to the table also, right? Like, when you look at all of those things and combine that with the experience that I have, how does that shape me? What is my purpose? That's another big question that I think a lot of times we don't have the answers to that. And so therefore, that's why I think that's where it comes from, man. That's why I stopped for a moment, because that's pretty deep.
Robin, you mentioned that we might not have the answer to the question, what is my purpose? What about those of us who are even afraid to ask that question? Right? Because for a long time, I was afraid to ask, what is my purpose? Because then I have to start seeking, right? Because it says, seek and ye shall find. Well, I was afraid of what I might find. Right. And so I wasn't even comfortable asking the question to go on the journey. And so when you bring that up, it makes me go back to thinking of maybe why I was seeking that outside validation, because it was easier, it was safer for me to get someone else's input than for me to find out what I believed, what my purpose was, and then to move with conviction in that direction. And so that was a big one for me. Robin, I'm just going to keep going with this conversation. I've got you talking now. A few weeks ago, we did a widely received episode of why failure feels so personal, right? Why does failure feel personal? And to be misunderstood feels personal. To be misunderstood, it hurts, right? Failure hurts. Being misunderstood hurts. And we know that there's going to be disagreements. We know there's going to be misunderstandings, but it doesn't just feel like a misunderstanding. It feels like rejection. And so would you talk about, or would you share maybe some of your ideas, some of your experience, just when, or about when misunderstanding no longer becomes a intellectual thing or a disagreement in terms, but it comes down to rejection and a deeper level? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like what comes to my mind first of all is, and I don't think this is the direction that you're going, but it's what comes to my mind is this idea of, keep sowing, because if you keep sowing, you're going to reap in due
Don't
season.
say it. Don't. Oh, you said it. He said it.
And so, because it does hurt sometimes, and you do get to that place where you wonder, like you even question yourself, like, like, am I going in the right direction? Am I being duped? Am I missing something? Or why isn't it happening? That's another part too, where I think can happen is that as you might be being misunderstood, you're also wondering, maybe I am heading in the wrong direction. Maybe I'm the one that's not going, where the places and the way and going about it the way that I should. That's what comes to my mind. And that's why I think I want to encourage our listeners by saying, a lot of times it just means keep planting. It just means keep sowing. It just means keep doing. If you keep doing, you are going to reap a harvest. And I think, Neal, the encouragement that I would also say is to remind yourself, and this is first of all figuring this out, of who you are and where you're headed. You got to know that first, but remind yourself of that, because when you understand that, you're going to recognize that nobody else sees the world the exact same way that you do, right? Nobody else does. And so there come a point in time where that word that you used earlier on, that conviction, you have to draw on that, because you can get hurt and disillusioned and frustrated and bothered. And sorry, can I give an example?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Like one example for me is well-meaning friends and family who think that the only path for you to go to make it happen is this particular.
We see it every day.
Yeah. And sometimes, you can wander, right? Like that can bother you. That can hurt sometimes as well. I remember also, I've shared this with you. I've shared this, I think, with our listeners at some point in the last 93 episodes. But, that time where I was audited by the IRS, and they were challenging the amount of expenses that I was claiming for, growth and development, seminars and books and conferences and what used to be tapes. A lot of our listeners won't even know what that is, but like podcasts, but you have to pay for them. I was claiming these expenses, and he was trying to convince me. So he misunderstood, Neal. He was trying to convince me that I was being duped by
Hold
the.
on. Wait right there, Robin. So he saw that, no, you really were paying. So ladies and gentlemen, they saw, oh no, he's not lying. He's really paying for the personal development and growth resources. They're legit. We see them. His thing was, Robin, no, they're taking advantage of you. They're getting rich. You might be getting smart, but you're getting broke. They're taking advantage of you. Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, right on. Thanks for that clarification there. I didn't say that part, but the point is that I didn't know myself. I started to question whether or not he knew something that I didn't. And I made a decision that day when I was out in the parking lot. I stopped and I really thought about it because I had heard some of these same sentiments from good meaning family and friends. Like, come on, Rob, we'll get your head out of the clouds here. What are you thinking? But he didn't realize, he couldn't see the better person I was becoming. He couldn't see that I was becoming a better husband, a better father, a better brother, a better son, a better person, a better leader, a better business owner, right? And so that's an example of where you can very easily be misunderstood and it can actually hurt. And that's where conviction, I made a decision that day with conviction that I was going to continue. I was going to continue investing in my growth.
And as we talk about the courage to be misunderstood and we say conviction, you're going to be met with opposing conviction, where they're going to say, you're dumb to do this. You have to be more realistic, right? Like, what's wrong? Like, look at the facts. Be like, well, we can look at the facts, but we also know what the truth is. The truth is that I have something on the inside of me that won't allow me to stop going. And so I think that's key. Robin, now, you and I, we are communicators. And ladies and gentlemen, we pride ourselves on being good, if not great communicators. But I couldn't find a better person to have this part of the conversation with than my brother, who will communicate with me openly and honestly. I wanted to talk about the difference between being misunderstood and poor communication. Right? Because I have found it at times where I will say, they just don't understand me, meaning that they couldn't see the vision that I had, that they didn't believe in me, and I would discount them. When the reality was, they didn't understand me because I was not communicating clearly. And they are not the same thing. And so very early on, Robin, I had to come to the realization that I couldn't use authenticity as an excuse to be dismissive, right? Or to be unnecessarily harsh, to say that I'm passionate when the reality is I'm just being rude, right? Because there is a difference between someone misunderstanding a clearly communicated decision and someone being confused because we didn't communicate clearly. And this is where I have to ask myself, a lot of times, many times, more times than I would like to admit, do they not understand me? Am I being misunderstood? Or did I not clearly communicate and they don't understand the communication? And they are not the same thing. And so that has been an example in my life. It has been, unfortunately, a recurring theme in my life, and that were early on. And that's why I made a commitment to become a better communicator. So if you don't understand the mission, vision, purpose, that's one thing. If you don't understand my communication, that's something totally different. And that's what I sought to improve. Robin, anything on that being misunderstood and poorly communicating?
So, sir, the first thing is you picked the right person when you said, I would love to talk to him, Robin, about this. If there's anybody I'd like to talk about this, because I certainly have been misunderstood. I certainly have not communicated the best way that I could. I certainly have been that guy. I can still think of it. I can picture it right now. I was in my office and somebody was communicating something to me and they mentioned the name of a person and I heard the name, but right away I pictured somebody else. And so I'm thinking of somebody else. I heard the right name, but I'm picturing somebody else in my mind. And I would have, if we didn't catch that towards the end of the conversation, I would have left that completely misunderstanding. And so I've been on both sides of that. And there are many a times. So yes, sir, you picked the right person. There are many a times where I completely misunderstand something that is being communicated. Number one. And then number two, where I have not been as clear. And I think it comes down to, the language that we use, the words that we speak, communication being a two-way street, taking the time to make sure people are understanding what you're communicating. And when you think about the misunderstandings the examples that I just gave, you can see where it's very easy to happen, where you are communicating and you think you're communicating well enough, but you're not, right? Because somebody's, like one word that you use, I use the name, but one word that you use, they see it differently than you do.
Mm-hmm.
I heard somebody say this, Neal, about teaching. And they said the responsibility of the teacher is not just to teach. The responsibility of the teacher is to make sure the person learns, right? And so that's where the communication piece comes in, where you are making sure that you are communicating in such a way that people get it. Sir,
Here's
the last
here's
thing
where
I would say before
go
you go
ahead.
on, I'm still working on that. Like, I sometimes when I listen to our podcasts, I realize, oh, Rob, you could have said that a little differently. Oh, Rob, you're saying too much there. Oh, Rob, like I'm still working on it, sir. I want to become a better communicator. I have improved. But I think it's such an important point that you are bringing up that can make the great difference between us moving ahead or not. Listeners, I'm talking about communicating vision. We need to become really good at that. Communicating clear expectations. We need to become really good at that, and so that's something that I continue to work on, Neal.
Now, that brings me to the thought of a few episodes back where we talk about unspoken expectations, right? If we don't communicate clearly, the impact that can have on our lives, the resentment that can come as a result. So here's where I want to share a simple communication test, one that has helped me improve and is really saved me and has saved my ego a number of times, because I thought I was just misunderstood, that they can't see what I see, that they're not at my level, when the reality was it was all my fault. So I've got a handful of questions that I run through, and we will put these questions in the show notes or the description for you. So first, did I communicate clearly? Did I communicate clearly? Enough said there. Did I communicate respectfully? Because what I've learned, Robin and ladies and gentlemen, that often if I communicate disrespectfully, the ears are shut. They're not listening. They don't care to know. So did I communicate clearly? But then did I communicate respectfully? Number 3, did I allow the other person to respond? Ouch. Okay. I'm just going to leave that there for those of you who are like me. Number 4, did I consider the impact of my decision? Whatever decision was made or is being made, did I consider the impact of my decision? Number 5, am I acting from conviction or reacting emotionally? So is this a conviction thing, or is this an emotional response or an emotional reaction? And then last, and I would say very important, have I received wise counsel from people qualified to advise me? Wise counsel, are they qualified to advise me? There's wise counsel that aren't qualified to advise you in certain areas. So those are 6 questions that I run to.
Those are great
ask
questions.
If I am misunderstood or if I have poorly communicated. So I want to toss a question out there. It's for the audience, Robin. You can answer if you like. But what role should trusted counsel, wise counsel, play in major decisions? Right? Are they the final say? Are they a contributing factor but not a determining factor? Are they no voice at all? So what role should trusted counsel play in major decisions? Robin, do you have anything there?
Yeah. I mean, in my experience, the more counsel that I can get is the better decision that I can make. I think you do need to gather your thoughts together first. You need to do your research, your thinking on it. And then when you do, I think you should bring it to others and so you're getting others' thoughts. You can even share what you're thinking. But the idea is that your thinking is limited, right? So start there, but recognize that your perspective, your viewpoint is is limited to your viewpoint. There are other viewpoints. There are other ways to see that decision, those circumstances, whatever it is that you are faced with. And I think having the perspective of others who maybe have gone on this road before you, or just have a different perspective on it to give you, is very, very helpful. I think, obviously the major decisions, when it comes right down to it, is that, you're going to make the final decision. You're going to get guidance and counsel, but I think you need to make that decision. That'd be my response to that question. I wonder how our listeners would respond. And then Neal, anything to add?
Well, now I will agree with you. Old Neal, young Neal, the one who wanted to abstain from responsibility, I would want others to have the final say. I would want my wise counsel, parents, mentors, to have the final say. So then I could abdicate myself from responsibility of the consequences. Right? Because I could say, well, Robin, he's my wise counsel. He told me to do this. And this is where we go back into last week's episode, where you're not answering the question for me. You're not solving my problem. You're helping me think. You're helping me become a problem solver myself. And so that's the one, knowing that they are qualified to consult or advise me. And then how much weight do I give them in different situations? But ultimately, I believe that this is our life to live and our decisions to be made. Robin, go ahead.
Sir, I just wanted to interject something that made me think about this in my early days. Perhaps if I really stopped to think about it, probably happened later too. But in my early days, I remember going to ask some guidance, and it's about taking a position. I was being offered a position as a sales manager, and Neal, here's what Robin did. I went and asked enough people until I found the people who gave me the answer I wanted to hear. That's what I want our listeners to be careful of, because we're capable of that. I did that. I really did. And, because there were counsel that was coming otherwise. Mm-hmm. And I really just went and asked somebody else until I found somebody else who agreed with what I thought we should do. So we have to be careful of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the thoughts and opinions of that Robin Lewis are not the thoughts and opinion of the Robin Lewis who sits before you today, right? So we are wiser, we are more mature now, but that is a reality. If we are not careful, we will find wise counsel who just agrees with everything that we say, or we will find the answers that we're looking for. And that can be so dangerous, Robin.
Yeah, right? It really can. And so if we are going to seek counsel, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with them. We have to put all the facts out there, not just not present to them what, like how it looks good and sounds good and all that stuff, or how we want it to be portrayed. We have to be fully transparent, right? Yeah.
So Robin, that leads me, and ladies and gentlemen, we are here on the Big Life Podcast talking about the courage to be misunderstood. And so now we're to the point where we must ask ourselves, how do we develop this courage to be misunderstood? All right, we know that it's going to happen. We know we're going to be misunderstood. We know it's going to hurt. We know that there are some contributing factors. And so now, how do we develop this courage to actually be misunderstood, right? We know that it can't be because of poor communication, but it needs to be from conviction, respectful conviction. But number one, clarify your convictions. Robin, you mentioned earlier, knowing what your values are and then not wavering on those. Make sure they're your values, number one. So clarify your convictions. Anything further on clarifying convictions, Robin, as we say how we can create or develop this courage to be misunderstood, sir?
I say dream big. I think one of the things that we have to be careful there to consistently do is to, think bigger. Dream bigger, and let that be our guide, and be around the people who are like that. Be around like-minded people who are dreaming bigger and who are calling you higher. I think that's one of the things that I'm not sure actually if I answered your question, Neal, but that's what came to my mind right there.
No, so that leads me into one of the next things for building or developing this courage to be misunderstood is to choose your advisors, choose your wise counsel carefully. Right. And so we've heard that everyone is entitled to an opinion, but everyone is not qualified to advise you. Right. Especially. And so, Robin, this is one of the best pieces of advice that I received from one of my mentors at an early age. And he said, only take advice from people who know more than you, who care about you, or who want you to win in that area. So there are people who might be great in one area, but like they might be great at business, but might be horrible at relationships. So make sure that they're qualified to advise you in that area. So that's something. And here's what the mentor said. Make sure that they understand the situation. You just mentioned be honest with the people. Make sure that they've demonstrated wisdom in that area, and then make sure that they have our best interest in mind. And if those individuals have that, I believe it's going to benefit us. Number 3, explain once clearly and respectfully. So this is Neal talking to Neal, right? Because I can't explain over and over. So explain once clearly and respectfully. So when you're convicted, when you know what your values are, when you know what you believe in and what your dreams are, and they're big, and you've made the decision, explain once, but make sure that your explanation, that your communication is clear and respectful. And then the last one that I am going to encourage you to do is to let time reveal your character. You do not have to, once you have the courage to be misunderstood, you do not have to defend your position every day, every week, every time you see them, right? Let time reveal your character. We just believe that time is the great revealer. And they'll say, okay, we believe him or her by what they've done consistently for 93 episodes. When people say, that's a horrible idea to do a podcast called The Big Life with you two who are trying to figure out how to communicate, no one's going to. Okay, we're going to let time reveal our character. We're going to let time be the proof that says, okay, maybe they were on to something, because we know that we do not have to defeat every false assumption immediately. And that's what I want to say to you all. Robin, go.
Sir, what is that quote that is, there's nothing like seeing the person that says it can't be done, watching the person do it? That's not exactly how it goes, but it's something like that.
Yep.
You remember it?
I don't know exactly, but it is. So here's what I do know. I know that we've referenced it, and it is in one of my money books that are here on my desk. And I think it's something like, there's nothing as sweet as showing the person who said it can't be done, or being the person doing what the person who said it can't be done. Something in that vein, but 100%.
Yes. So they're as they're saying it can't be done, they're watching somebody doing it, you know? That's the idea. That's what comes to my mind. I think that's a part of not feeling like you need to be understood. Sometimes you have to have that courage, like Neal just said. I don't want to repeat what you just said, but the idea there is that that person is going to be misunderstood. If people think it can't be done, but this person is actually going to go ahead and get it done, you're going to be misunderstood. But if you have all of what Neal just said in place, then you're in the right path, right? And so keep doing it, keep going. That's what we're encouraging.
Robin, do I have permission to issue a challenge, a loving challenge to our friends and family who are listening to us today?
We can't do this without issuing one of those, sir.
So this week's challenge, and this is one that Neal is going to be right there with you on, is that I'm going to encourage you to identify only one decision, boundary, goal, or personal change that you've delayed because of how others may interpret it. Right? Maybe it's just your hair color. So something I'll use this as an example. I have a close friend of mine who wants to shave his head, Robin. He wants to shave his head. He has put off that decision. And in my mind, it's a small decision. But he's put off that decision to shave his head for more than 3 years simply because of how others may interpret it, right? And that's just a light thing. But we're talking about what boundary or goal or decision that could be life-altering, which could determine what your future looks like, what your kids and generations or grandchildren might experience. Which of those might you have delayed that you no longer need to delay because you're worried about someone else saying, well, that's a bad idea, right? Someone who's unjustified, unwarranted in giving their opinion, who aren't qualified to advise you. And so that's what the challenge is this week. Just write that down, put some thought into it. Let us know in the comment section what that is. We are here to encourage you, to walk alongside with you. We're going to tell you, make the change, do the thing, make the decision, go after that goal, follow your dream after you've sought wise counsel. Robin, anything you have for us today, sir?
I love the challenge. It got me thinking about some decisions that we're looking to make here in our lives right now, in this season of our lives. And it clearly comes down to believing in yourself, knowing where you're heading, and having the courage to follow that path. And we do this because we believe in you. And so if you have nobody else, sometimes you have naysayers, sometimes you have people that are not speaking life into whatever that is for you. And that makes it even harder. That makes it even harder for you, our listeners, that might be faced with this challenge that Neal just laid down. And we just know that we believe in you. We need you, right? There's something inside of you that this world is waiting for, something that only you can give. And you don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to take the next step. That's why Neal and I do what we do, because we believe that and we believe in you.
Robin, I can't think of a better person to end it or a way to end it than you just did. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be the end of episode 93 of the Big Life Podcast. We are almost to the century mark. We thank you all for hanging out here with us. If you've been here from episode 1, or if this is your first time listening to the Big Life Podcast, it is an honor, privilege, and a pleasure to be able to speak into your life, and we do not take that lightly. We're going to ask you to subscribe, follow this podcast, share it with someone who may need to hear or may need the courage to be misunderstood as they go about living the big life. We want to leave you as we always do, and that is that we love you, God loves you, and there's nothing you could do about it. And until the next time we see you or you see us, we're right there with you. Peace.
Peace.